Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to Dust. London Falling would just be the name of this. This is from the CMON Comic Book Extras Volume 2. So I picked this up because it was like a war-looking miniatures, and it was a new game that as of even having this video, has yet to actually be announced. Dust. So there are other Dust games out there. It's tactical RPG, miniature RPG game. There's lots of stuff like that. So this actually has characters more in line with the size of Zombicide. There wasn't really much information about it, but I picked it up because I'm like, hey, if it ends up being a neat looking game and I want to pick it up, I already have the promos. And of course, I got a cool comic book from it. So, but I did find out one neat thing so what we have is survivor cards for Zombicide 2.0 modern. But then the back side, they have their own extra versions, which look very identical. They have the health symbol, they have the red, blue, yellow, orange, lots of the same stats and stuff. So there is a theory that it's probably going to be a Dust Zombicide version. So it's just going to be kind of like, we had Black Plague, which is fantasy, we had Invader, which is zombies, we had Undead or Alive, which is the Western. Now we're going to have Dust, which is going to be more of a kind of like military-esque World War II version. So instead of like modern troopers and World War II, they'll be using more guns. So it's going to presumably be a game that's going to follow on with that. So we will look at both sides of those. We'll do all the modern 2.0 Zombicide first, and then we'll go back with this. So before we hop into any of it, I just want to mention, this is a comic book here, spoilers ahead of time. I'm going to do a little quick flip these so you see some of the artwork of the comic book. But just knowing who some of the characters are, who the zombie is in the game, it might ruin some of the stuff in the comic book for you. So yeah, if you don't want to be any spoilers for the comic book, you're getting your copy, you want to read it first. Either skip past to where I'd probably go read the comic book first, then come back. But yeah, so this is kind of just a neat thing. I'm not going to go through all the book because we definitely don't want to spoil everything. But it's kind of nice to see some of the cool artwork in there. I know the regular Zombicide one was a little bit gory. I don't know if this one's going to be as bad. Doesn't look nearly as gory. I'm going to try to skip to the end there. I did like this, though, at the end. We do have dossier of the different people. So we have Sergeant Reyes, maybe one of our main guys. We have Hoffman, who I'm calling, typical Zombicide, they have like the something after, like the performer, the photographer. So I'm like, well, he's the sergeant. Except they did spell sergeant without, I think that's incorrect. Oh, I had an A in it, but I could be wrong. I do love that this looks like a notebook type thing, sketchbook. We have Hoffman, who I'm calling the heavy gunner. Jim, who I believe is the saboteur or spy. Abernathy, who's our private, so she's kind of a little bit lower ranked in the group. We have Major Washington, who's the major. Gambon, who looks like he's definitely maybe just like a hired help, like a foreign troop. Like, hey, they're over in London. These are American troops over in London. He's kind of like their London support. And then we have Major Volkner, who's our bad guy. And then our last one is Dr. Anderson. So he's one of the doctors. Now I don't know if this is a German doctor that they're rescuing, or if he's an American doctor that was doing something. Not for sure, but there's kind of like the company. Very interesting. So, well, yeah, hopefully they'll come out and have some more information on what this actual game is sooner than later, so we can get into that. But let's go ahead and jump into our actual miniatures for the set. We're going to start with Private Sophie Abernath. I flip my camera back down a little bit farther. So again, remember these are the Zombicide 2.0, and then we will go over the other side afterwards. So I'm going to pull this back out. Let's take a look at her miniature here. Definitely, because she has a grenade that she can throw there. It's a projectile grenade. And she has a big rifle. I'm surprised I don't think that gun works with that though, so I don't know if she's just gonna throw that at someone or not, or if she's just setting stuff up. But yeah, so on the back of the cards are their alternate version, the Dust version, so they don't have pips on them. So we're gonna read what these all do. So she has one free car action. So this is kind of neat because not every Zombicide game comes with a car. This didn't come with a mission or anything like that, which would have been kind of neat. But again, there's just extra promo characters. And they have one free range action, Bloodlust Melee. Excuse me. Which Bloodlust just means when... I always forget exactly how these are, so I want to make sure I say the right one. You can spend one action, move 2 zones containing at least 1 zombie, then gain a free action of that type. So she can spend an action to move extra and do an extra free range action, or extra melee action. In red, 1 damage for combat, plus 1 free combat action, or plus 1 die roll for combat. So, she's got a little bit of melee stuff, a little bit of range stuff. You can use that cars to get around, which I don't think I've even seen that as an ability before. So that's pretty cool. She gets some mobility out of it. Alright, up next we have our Sergeant Reese, or Reyes. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that. This guy looks pretty cool. If we can get him to focus. This is definitely your grizzled commander guy. He has a metal arm. Yeah, he's holding that. I love all the guns have, like, the belts on them. You just don't have that in, like, the modern stuff because, here they're having to carry them so they can maneuver around the battlefield. So he has improvised weapon melee. So improvised weapon melee gives an extra skill. It says once during each of your turns, you may perform a free skill using these specific characteristics. So they can use this. At 0 range, they can roll 2 dice for 4 actives to do 1 damage. So basically, he has a built-in extra melee attack. In orange, 1 free ranged action or plus 1 die roll for melee. In red, 1 damage for melee, 1 free combat action or escalation combat. Escalation, as long as he does the same combat action, as long as he does a combat action over and over, he gets to roll an extra dice each time. So he's really going to kind of your melee guy, but he can switch having the free ranged action potentially, or the combat action or escalation combat. He can kind of go back and forth if he need to be. I also just noticed in his metal hand, he's also holding a grenade. So that is pretty... Oh, he has the pin in his mouth. That's what he has. I thought he had, like, a cigar. That's awesome. I wish he had, like, a built-in Molotov or something. That would have been cool. Alright, up next we have Major Wanda Washington. I'm never going to be able to think of Washington without thinking of Marvel Comics GW Bridge, which is George Washington Bridge. Like, they just call him GW Bridge. And I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting name. And then you find out GW stands for George Washington. You're like, your name is George Washington Bridge. Anyway, here's Major Wanda Washington. There's a bomber, kind of like a bombery type jacket in there. Gun on one side, knife on the other. She's definitely ready to roll. The big old poofed up hair like that. Pretty cool. So she has sniper. So even though she doesn't have a sniper rifle, could have made more sense, right? Sniper says truly freeze targets with all the ranged actions. Friendly fire is ignored. So she can basically she's a crackpot shot. In orange, plus 1 die roll for ranged, or she has jump. Jump lets her move up to 2 areas, skipping the area in between. So ignoring zombies or whatever will be in the area. 1 free combat action, blitz, and roll 6 plus 1 damage for range. Every time she rolls a 6, she gets plus 1 extra damage if she's doing a ranged action. So she's kind of going to want to be sitting back farther and doing stuff. But then blitz says she can spend 1 action, move up to 2 zones where zombies were in the range of one of her equipped range weapons, and then gain a free ranged action. So that lets her move a little bit quicker. She can use jump to move spaces. She can use blitz to move spaces. She can shoot guys. I don't have to worry about it. She's definitely a good backup for all her melee guys she's been having, which, aren't a ton. It's an army game. So you got to kind of figure out how to get some melee guys in there. You're not going to have the bruisers all the time. Alright, up next we have Hoffman. Like I said, I think I'm just call him our heavy gunner. So here he is with a big giant machine gun, looks like. If it wants to focus, come on. There we go. Alright, yeah, he's got a big muscles, big gruff beard. I know he's a redhead, so I kind of wonder if this is one of the things where it's not just the American forces, but especially because it's World War II, if we have all these different people from different backgrounds. Like I said, our one guy looks like he might be maybe from Germany. Maybe that redhead guy probably means maybe he's Irish, possibly. So that's kind of neat if we had like all these different people, like maybe from all these different countries. But again, I don't have profiles on them, so I can't say for sure. But he has escalation range. So this gets him, as long as he keeps using ranged attacks over and over, he's going to keep getting extra dice. In orange, 1 free ranged action, which will help with that. Or if he rolls a success, +1 die for combat. In red, he has +1 damage for melee, +1 free ranged action, or full auto. So then he keeps going range, he can get a lot of dice in there. Full auto lets him, when he goes to attack with a range, he can select roll dice equal to the number of zombies in the zone, as opposed to the number of dice. So if his gun only rolls for 3, like there's 5 zombies, he rolls 5 dice instead. And yeah, I like that as a 1 free melee damage, right? So it's kind of, if they get close to him, he's just going to beat them with his giant gun. Like, that's how I'm going to think of what he's doing. Alright, our next guy up is just Jim. So he has 2 cocktails are better than 1. And so, now, if you're wondering why I said earlier I thought he was maybe the spy or saboteur, because if I flip to his other side, his first thing is called resistance saboteur. So again, I'm wondering if maybe he was like a trooper that was like hanging out with the bad team, and then he's like, the hidden guy. But 2 cocktails are better than 1. Lets him, when he throws a Molotov, he gets to roll a die. If he rolls a 4 or higher, he gets to keep that Molotov. In orange, 1 free move action or 1 free ranged action, so he's going to get around the board. In red, 1 free combat action, +1 to max range or hit and run. So he's definitely going to want to stay at a distance and sniping people with this little gun he has. We did not look at his miniature yet. He has hit and run, which means anytime he defeats at least 1 zombie during an action, he gets to get a free move action. He has no movement penalties, so you can either use this to get away from the zombies, but you can take them all out. Or if you finish them all off, move to another area. Pretty cool. So there is his miniature. Scooch this over a bit. Maybe that's just interfering with it too much. Nope, doesn't seem to matter. There we go. Yeah, I wish there was more of a thing. And I'm sure probably like reading through the comic book, they will give me more information on the characters you might, like, they're getting together the first time you might read it. But again, I haven't read that yet. So that was that. So then we have 2 more guys. We got Eddie Gambon. So yeah, I think he's kind of like the hired merc character. Maybe he's already been in the zone. Who knows? So there he is. He's got a little cigar in his mouth, attending guns with the straps, big giant backpack. Love the huge canteen. Got figure out how to paint them plaid on there. So he has zombie links. This means anytime a zombie draws a rush card, or an extra, not a rush card, not a rush card, but an extra activation card, he gets to act first before that. But now, he gets a full extra turn. So I always love that. It's not just he gets one extra action to do something. He gets to take another full turn before the zombies do. So that could definitely help clear out a bunch maybe before some spawn. In orange, she has one free move action and sidestep. Sidestep is... whenever a zombie spawns in a range of 1 or 0, the survivor may immediately perform a move action. Survivors not need to spend extra action to perform this free move if there are zombies standing in the zone. So, whenever someone spawns next to him, he gets to move. Plus, he also has a zombie link, which gets him some extra stuff as well. One free combat action, Born Leader. Born Leader will let him give an action to another player. They have to immediately use it, and then he resumes back to his turn. And then Shove will, of course, let him push any zombies from his zone into the next open zone. Pretty fun. Alright, then our last survivor is Lloyd Anderson, the doctor. So this guy looks like he with the blonde hair, slicked back. I wonder if he's maybe like a German doctor that they're coming to like rescue for some reason. Kind of fits that themology. He's just got a little pistol there. He's got his binder full of notes. He's all dressed up though, because he definitely doesn't fit the army aesthetic that the rest of the characters have. So he starts with combat reflexes, which this is much like sidestep, except if a zombie spawns within the zone 1 to 0 of him, he gets a free free combat action against them. But again, if it's a range, he only has range weapons, he has to be within range of them. So he has one free range action, he has hit and run. In red, one free combat action, one free move action, or +1 to roll dice range. Now, the only thing that's disappointing, he's called the doctor, he does not have the medic skill somewhere. But, you know, that's what that is, I guess. Alright, then our last card here is we have an Abomination. So we're going to get Elke Volker. So she is our German leader, but she's considered an abomination. I like that some of the abominations are sometimes just a human character, right? But sometimes they're the worst. It kind of reminds me of like Black Plague, where the necromancers aren't they aren't zombies, they're just humans that are doing evil crap. But yeah, there's her with her. Why do I want to say that's a Luger? And why do I have no idea if that is? I think a Luger is a pistol, not a rifle. But that's the only German name gun I can think of, and it's probably not even German. So she has targeting priority orders. Targeting priority order runners, special attack, spawning attack, see rule reference card. So she gets an extra reference card here. It says wounds dealt 1, to eliminate damage 1, and adrenaline provided 5. So she's not super hard to kill, because she's just a regular person. Even though she's considered an abomination. It says when Ilk, and I hope I'm pronouncing that somewhere close, is eliminated, reshuffle the abomination deck, including its discard pile. She spawns in the nearest street zone of the noisiest zone on the board. If several zones are eligible, players chooses. She attacks once right after spawning after combat reflexes. And when she attacks all zones within 0 to 1 range, dealing 1 wound to each survivor within range. She basically comes out into the street where it's noisy. Instead of a building, she just sprays her gun wherever. That is nuts, right? So yeah, that's interesting. Now, other thing is this targeting priority runners. So I think my guessing, because again there are no actual rules that came in this box to explain this, is my assumption is what that means is when you're targeting her, she's classified as a runner, which means she's the last person you would target. Rather than being an abomination, which are generally the big giant guys, so you have to attack them first, is you attack her last. She doesn't gain any of the other stuff as a runner. Cool. So that is what we have for the comic book, comic book 1 and 2, the Dust stuff for Zombicide 2.0 second edition. Now we're going to look at the other sides of the cards, but I'm not going to hold the miniatures back up for each one. But we're going to have to guess on what some of this stuff means, because we don't have the full things. First of all, we're going to notice they all have 5 hit points. Otherwise, they still have the blue, yellow with always a free action, 2 orange, and 3 red. So it's going to be very similar. I wonder if they have 5 hit points just because they're being attacked by regular people against regular people, or if it's more of like the invaders where like the soldiers got 5 hit or more hit points than the civilians. It's kind of like they're playing that route. Again, not sure. We won't find out until they actually get a game out and give us some rules. But Sophie has, instead of a car action, she has 1 free machine action. So I'm wondering if the machines are going to play a very, again, similar role to like Invaders, of like where you could control a turret and be able to shoot stuff around. If there's going to be various things like turrets around, or like a tank that you could hop in and activate. So very interesting with Cell last work. Otherwise, a lot of their abilities stayed very much the same. She has 1 free range action. She has Storm, move 2. Now, no idea what this means. So I don't know what the Storm effect is going to be. Maybe there's a phase in the game where something causes a desert storm, which is why it's called Dust. A dust storm to hit. And maybe she gets an extra 2 move during that time. Not for sure. +1 damage for combat, 1 free combat action, and then all out +1 die roll for combat. Now, all out is actually something we do know about. I don't know if it'll work the exact same way. But in the campaign modes, they started going all out dice. So it says all out dice are used like regular dice with a special break symbol replacing the 1. Apply the corresponding effect whenever a break is rolled. So basically, more or less, when players declared going all out, they carry out any combat actions performed with survivor using weapons at all out value. So if we're looking at like the submachine gun, you get, instead of doing 3 dice, you get an additional 3, or if you're using the Glock 17, you get an additional 3. Same thing like the melee weapons, you get 1 extra for the baseball bat, or 2 extra for the katana. It's showing that you're using these as hard as you possibly can. You're spending all your bullets. You're swinging these weapons as hard, as fierce as you can, and just going all out. But what happens is when you roll, however, rolling a 1 on 1 or any dice breaks them. So you have to roll the all-out dice instead for those amount. So you add like the extra 3 dice or that to the pool of the all-out. If you roll 1, you break it. Broken, discard the weapon right after the combat action is resolved. Yeah, so it's an interesting idea. So I'm guessing what this means is that, so they're adding this in there so these guys can kind of push their weapons a little bit harder than normal. And if they go, she gets +1 for her combat dice when she uses that all-out feature. Which is kind of cool. Alright, then we have Rice. So he has improved improvised weapon melee, so he has the same melee attack he had before. +1 to die roll for melee. Storm, +2 combat actions. So again, we don't know what the Storm does exactly. +1 damage for melee, +1 free combat action, and all out ignore 1 jam. So this might be the difference, is they say jam instead of break. So what it might be is if your weapons are World War II weapons, so you roll all out, it might just jam the weapon up. And that might mean what you have to do is then wait a turn to fix it, or you can't use it until you fix it. So I wonder if it's gonna maybe kind of work more like, less like the Zombicide 2.0, the 2.0 all out. It's gonna work more like the Wild West one, the Western Undead or Alive, which charge shots. Basically, they spent that dice. The weapon was now exhausted until you ended up until you got like a recharge station to recharge your weapon back up. And these might be the same thing. Maybe if you roll that dice, you'll jam your weapon. You can't use it until you spend an action to repair it. So that could be a possibility as well. For Wanda, we have Sniper skill, +1 free machine action, +1 die roll range, +1 free combat action. She has Blitz on the bottom there, but then she has Agent, deal 3 ranged damage. I do not know what Agent means. I wonder if it's going to be like a replacement for Brother in Arms. If it means so every time, if it worked that way, that means whenever she's in the same zone as somebody, another survivor, everyone gets +3 damage for their ranged. Or their damage is 3 for any ranged attacks, but if she's by herself, it doesn't do anything. But maybe it works the other way around. If she's by herself, she gets it. She's an agent. Not for sure. We'll have to, again, wait to see how that works. For Hoffman, we have All Out, Ignore 1 Jam. In orange, 1 free ranged action. Roll 6 +1 die for combat. In red, 1 damage for melee, 1 free ranged action. And then resistance, double your All Out dice. Again, not sure what resistance means, but doubling your All Out dice is pretty hefty. So you get a lot of dice out of that. We have Jim here who has resistance. He has Saboteur. No idea what either of those keywords means. And maybe that's the difference. Agent might be maybe if you're by yourself, you get the agent ability, but if you're resistance, maybe that's the brother in arm. You're working together. And maybe that kind of also reflects this thing of these guys being non-Americans joining the resistance team. Not for sure. In orange, 1 free move action. Resistance +1 free ranged action. In red, 1 free combat action, plus max 1 range and hit and run. For Eddie Gambon, we have Zombie Link skill. He has Dodge. So Dodge, I think, is just going to be the new keyword for Sidestep. So I guess that means when someone spawns, he gets a free movement. He has Room Sweeper Move 2. Again, new keyword. I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. Because if we look on the other side of his card, he has Sidestep down lower, or up higher. He has it in, yeah, that's still in orange, but his other one is 1 free move action, so it doesn't really link with anything. In red, 1 free combat action, Born Leader, and Shove. And our last guy is Lloyd Anderson, combat reflexes, in orange, 1 free range action. He has Civilian. Yes, not sure what Civilian means either. Might work like Home Defender, which in Home Defender is an ability that lets you use a ranged attack inside of a building. So instead of only being able to shoot one space inside a building, you can basically shoot as far as you can see. You have full line of sight, because it's supposed to represent them being familiar. And the only reason I think Civilian might kind of fit with that is because that was, I think, similar to the name they had in the Western game as well. And then we have 1 free combat action, 1 free move action, or build up, +1 die roll to combat. And again, not sure what build up means. So some of these are interesting. We have some very similar, lots of similarities with some interesting little differences. Cool. And our last one is we have Dust the Zombie. Danger Kampf with Walking. So we have our zombie card in the back, and then this just says Elk Volkner is a Totenmeister. So I'm assuming that's the equivalent of an abomination. Special attack and spawn rules on her other cards. So she has, there's her picture. And then the back of her card says, spawns in the nearest street zone of the zone with the most survivors. The several zones are eligible. Players choose. She attacks once right after spawning after combat reflexes. Attacks to all zones at range 0 to 1 go to 1 wounded survivor. So she works the same way. She just doesn't have that priority setup that the other one does. But she's considered a Totenmeister. So maybe that means she's considered to be like the, maybe that's going to be the name of the runner class for that game. Again, they're just having it be a straight up Zombicide clone, like Black Plague or Invader. like Invader changed a lot of the names too. And so did Marvel change some of them. So it's kind of interesting that they go ahead. Granted, at this point, it'd be almost unfeasible to do it, but it'd be almost nice if they just had little pictures for all of them. Here's a picture of a walker. Here's a picture of a runner. You got little symbols for everyone. But, you know, that's what it is. Alright, so that is what we have for Dust, the London Falling comic book extras with a super awesome box. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Come back, check out the other ones. And if there's more on this game, I will definitely, you know, maybe I'll even do like a preview video if I find out more, just to link people to this. Or if you know anything about it, hit me up in the comments. Maybe these characters have already existed in the Dust universe and you played other games. Let me know. See you guys later. Bye. Just a quick add-on at the end of this video for the Dust series, because after I got done with the video, on the unboxing, I had guesses on this and this stuff. I actually went through and read the comic book, because I was interested in seeing what it was. It's part of the reason I bought it. And I did realize I had some of the characters wrong. Again, I was taking guesses just based on what their cards said. So I just want to do a little spoiler of the comic book and explaining some of the stuff. So first of all, I do want to go through some of the dossiers. They did have this section here, which I could have opened if I had known it. So we do have Wanda Washington, who's the American commander. She kind of leads the ragtag group. Then we have Gerhard Hoffman, who is a German. I thought maybe he was Irish because his hair looked red, but I guess it's blonde. But he was a German that defected, ended up joining this whole group. Then we have James Reese, who is a veteran, who's a British, and he's the guy with the one arm, with the robot hand. I was like, he hates Hoffman because he's German, so basically he's like, even though he's on his team together, they kind of go at each other. Then we had Jim, who I wasn't really sure of. He's actually British. He's a little gunner. But it's interesting because his parents died at a Japanese civilian holding camp outside Shanghai. So even though he's listed as being British, he grew up in Japan. So it's kind of interesting. And then the last one we had down here was Sophie, who is an American. So she's one of the other Americans in the group. But she's like the person that in the comic book, in the story, she's one that fixes all the tanks, why she drive all the vehicles. So that's why she has the in the Zombicide version, she has the car mechanic, and then in the Dust version, she has things for fixing mechanical objects. So they definitely have that. And those are the 5 characters we have. Then the other thing I wanted to bring up is we weren't really sure about villains, because the only villain we saw was her as a Nazi, and she actually plays a really interesting part in this comic book, which I don't want to spoil that. I don't want to get into too many spoilers for the comic book. In general, I just wanted to kind of go over the characters. But there was also, and it's not a huge spoiler because it's mentioned literally in the beginning. It's the first part of the thing if you read the book, so it's not a huge spoiler. But one of the other things in here is there's actually 2 alien races. There's the Vril, which they don't show in here at all, but they sound more like a technological alien race, because it sounds like they adapt equipment or weapons from them. And then there's the Mythos, which are essentially the Elder Gods. So this seems like it's a... and then in the comic book, there are also zombies in there as well, but zombies aren't prominent. So it's going to be very interesting to see what this game ends up being, because it uses the Zombicide system. And we do have some zombies in here, and this could just be like a one-off tale. Maybe they're going to explain more zombies in the other one, but I like the fact that we have these mythos beings in here, some of the Elder Gods. So we're kind of getting like a mixture between like World War II Zombicide era, but we have like mechanics with the all-out stuff that kind of fit in between the campaign and the Western one, because it has a jamming mechanic instead of a breaking mechanic. But then if we're getting some sort of aliens, we get a little bit of that invader aspect in there, which is kind of interesting. And then also, as I kind of mentioned, is she has on her ability that she falls back behind where all the runners are. So she actually said, like, even though she's considered an abomination for typing, she falls back to the runners, probably being a smaller target. But it also sort of reminds me, and slight spoiler for the comic books, is she can kind of command the zombies a bit. So I like that we also somewhat maybe getting, possibly like from Black Plague, the necromancer type idea, where maybe a human type non-zombie character that can control the zombies. Even with the mythos, that's part of the stories. They're trying to Germans are trying to control the elder gods. So yeah, it's kind of interesting because they could have just made a World War II Zombicide and then done with it, but it looks like they're taking little elements from each other Zombicide game and adding them in here. Another interesting thing I want to point out is on the bottom of all the figures, they have the numbers. And I usually go through, after I get all the CMON games, I like to check all the numbers to see if I'm missing any. To see, like, okay, like, because usually, especially if they're Kickstarter stuff, you can be like, oh, we're missing number 126. Like, who would that have followed? What would that make sense? This is interesting because usually when you get like a little core box set, it's usually like 1 through 10 or 1 through 11 or whatever. This actually starts at number 4, so it goes, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think that was it, and there might have been another one in there. 10, because we don't have the Doctor in here either. And the Doctor is the other character I didn't mention. But he was also, yeah, he's part of this group. They're trying to rescue him. I was correct on that. But yeah, I think they go 10 that way. So it's missing miniatures number 1, 2, and 3, which I thought was an interesting thought. Because my thing is like, oh, if it was missing 1 through 4 or 1 through 6, I could maybe be like, okay, when the core set comes out, those are the first 6 characters designed. Then they designed these guys, and maybe they pulled them out of the original design to put in this extra instead ahead of time. And it could have even done like the first 3 characters. Might be interesting, but there's no other character. There are other characters introduced in here, but they're not. They're like side characters, so I don't think they would be like core set 1, 2, and 3. One of the characters could be, but they would be a villain, so usually the villains are usually later on. So it's interesting, though, that we're missing miniatures number 1, 2, and 3. Could be nothing to that. They might have designed 3 characters, trashed them at the last minute, and decided to make a smaller box. Who knows? But I just wanted to kind of bring that up, just kind of clear some of this. I was guessing on who some of these people were. I actually find this is a really good read. It kind of sets, it's almost a great way, and I bet the other comic books are kind of going to be like that too. It could be a great way to like set you up to play the games, or play the scenarios that go with them. Alright, that's what we got for that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. See you guys later. Bye.